Welcome to Startup Health Now, the weekly show celebrating the healthcare transformers and changemakers reimagining health. My name is Stephen Krein, and in today's episode, we're going to sit down with healthcare transformer and the CEO of Valera Health, Dr. Tsang. This is going to be a great episode.
It is the duty of leaders to lead, of the creative to create, of the daring to do. The free world expects leadership of us. Its fate and our fate depends upon our leadership. We are industrious, inventive, restless, with the fires that burn within us. Well, I say that nothing is easy, and the best things are the hardest. And all our troubles, all our immense difficulties, now and in the future, can I say be solved if we have the will, the courage. The future is to those who take it.
Tom, thanks for being here.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks a lot for having me here.
I know I can't believe we haven't had you on before because I've known you for many years now, and whether it's the fact that you're a clinician, the fact that you worked in government, the fact that you worked in big corporate, big pharma, and now you're an entrepreneur, I have so many different questions about your background. But for the listener and the watcher of the episodes, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, I'm a reformed internist. I practiced 12 years in New York City. Like you said, I've had many careers, and so I have a little bit of professional ADD. But I went from practicing internal medicine, where I ran a residency program, ran a public clinic for immigrants and the uninsured, right here in Chinatown. And then I ended up working for the Ways and Means Committee as a congressional staffer, working on the Affordable Care Act and High-Tech Act. After that was signed by the president, got recruited by the administration to be medical director for the agency that basically rolled out the standards for how health information technology should be used by doctors and hospitals.
All right, and now I have to stop right there because
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by the fact that you took part in the creation of the Affordable Care Act.
Yeah.
And I want to just give people listening and watching who might not even been part of the industry then how big of a shift it was prior to that and today, and then we'll kind of keep going.
Well, you know how Startup Health is transforming my life as an entrepreneur. That fellowship transformed my life as a health policy person or a healthcare person. You don't go from practicing medicine to helping write legislation in a blink of an eye. So it was really, truly life transforming. And it's really, I was fortunate to have been accepted by the RWJ Foundation, and the program is being run by the Institute of Medicine. And they take mid-career individuals, place them in Congress as subject matter experts, and then train them hopefully to become public servants and leaders of the healthcare industry.
Did you think it was going to pique your interest and actually something you'd keep doing, or did you think it was going to be one and done?
I thought it was one of these things where I go in, parachute in, parachute out, learn a little bit of stuff, and go back to my world. I had no idea that I was going to stay in that world for almost 4 years.
What was it that attracted you so much to kind of getting more involved and staying involved?
It's the role of how public policy could shape and really impact the way we deliver care in the entire ecosystem. It was just an incredible opportunity to play a role in that and to be a part of that and be part of something that's much larger than life.
So for all the critics and people sit on both sides of the kind of debate about it, what do you think the biggest impact is, kind of not just to clinicians like yourself, but also to the patients?
Well, folks look at all these point messages out in media about how bad it is, how good it is, and you have critics, you have advocates, but I think what it boils down to is that it ignited a revolution, and it really changed the way we think about innovations in healthcare, and we changed the way we think about value, consumer advocacy, patient-centeredness, and really thinking about how do we do such a thing, introduce changes into the ecosystem that really undid that had improvement essentially.
Yeah.
It's change for the better, I think.
Yeah, I can spend an hour on that topic.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep going.
Yeah.
So pick me up from that moment. You're part of the team
Mm-hmm.
creating this, and then
Mm-hmm.
we're asked to kind of stay on board and join the ONC.
joined ONC, did stage 1 meaningful use, and then got recruited by the governor of Hawaii to do a state transformation roadmap for the state of Hawaii. And then got recruited by Merck Pharmaceutical to be part of their digital health team and digital innovation team.
Did you have any idea where that was all going to lead you?
No idea. It was just serendipity and just opportunities coming up.
Were people in your life asking you, like, not practicing medicine anymore full time and kind of doing all this? Is kind of a big question mark?
Yeah, definitely. You know, it doesn't fit the box and it doesn't fit the mold, and people expect you and want to box you in and categorize you, and you know they want to understand who you are, and if you don't fit that mold, it's just people don't understand that.
Okay, so all of that then leads to the ultimate disruption of actually becoming an entrepreneur. What do you remember, like the moment you decided to become an entrepreneur?
When I was working at Merck, I did a lot of work with the organization that invested, GHI, that invested in digital innovations, and you know, being in that space and advising and identifying the assets and understanding the value that they bring to the table, that was when I thought, well, maybe I can do this myself.
And was that yet again people telling you you couldn't, or you shouldn't, or you're crazy?
All the above, yeah.
And so was there an idea that led you to become an entrepreneur, or was it entrepreneurship that led you to an idea?
It was a little bit of both. Having gone through understanding technology and payment reform and delivery system redesign, I was thinking about one area of focus that needed a lot of change, and that was mental health and behavioral health. That was one area that no one was touching, but yet we have huge unmet needs. And
so that led to...
It was just really a convergence of ideas and seeing an opportunity.
And was Valera Health as it sits today the original idea, or was it a different idea when you started kind of doodling?
No, it's the same idea, and we're fulfilling that dream.
Okay, so tell me about, tell everyone. I mean, I obviously know about Valera, but tell everybody about Valera.
So like I said, mental health is a tremendous situation where there's a crisis at hand, and we can see that all over the news. Right, we see it with the opioid epidemic. We see it with people seeing that the highest need and highest cost drivers of the health system are people with both a medical condition and a mental health problem. And the last 20 years, we've seen this artificial disintegration of the two different models of care. And so what's happening is that out of 60 million Americans with a diagnosable condition, 40 million are not getting the care that they need. And so what are we doing, what's Valera doing, is that we're leveraging all the tools and technologies that's available, a data-driven system that can actually reinvent the way we deliver care. So we have population analytics that can actually identify and risk stratify individuals. So really assessing the right level of care for the right disease. So for instance, someone with depression, they have mild, moderate, or severe. And not every single person needs to see a psychiatrist. So we have 3,000 psychiatrists short all over the country. We're short on providers in the mental health space. So one of the ways that Valera is helping to unburden this problem is that those who are severe can see the psychiatrist using our telehealth capability, and the mild and moderates can actually be handled by our coaches. And so we have a patient-facing app that sits on your cell phone. We collect data from you and about you, and it creates an alert and tells us if something is going down, we can intervene. We can get in touch with you and intervene and see how you're doing by our coaches.
So you end up triaging, so you don't actually you don't take up the valuable resources that are needed, but on the flip side, more people can be cared for.
Exactly, and so we're amplifying the existing model probably by 3 or 4-fold with tools and technologies that could help providers and payers meet the unmet needs.
Okay, and is that the only thing that Valera does, or is that the main event, or is that kind of one of the components?
It's one of the components. It's a end-to-end solution that it's not just a single point solution that a lot of the other companies are doing. Mm-hmm. You know, because we have the population analytics, We have the consumer
And
application.
the population analytics, who uses that?
So it's both payers and providers who are actually at shared risk, maintaining the health of the entire population.
Mm-hmm.
The consumer app can actually deliver content, such as very light cognitive behavioral therapy.
And is the consumer just finding that on their own, or they're actually getting that prescribed?
No, it's being prescribed or referred
Okay.
by providers and payers. We have a consumer-directed strategy, but that's a little bit down the road. And then we have coaches that can actually work with the patients, and we have televideo capabilities that can actually deliver the service that a psychiatrist and a psychologist would have to, normally they would have to do face-to-face, but they can actually do it remotely. And so it's reaching untapped markets. And patients can do this in the comfort of their own home. And we're seeing the reimbursement rates right now where Medicaid and commercials are paying for telehealth, particularly telemental health, because we have such vast unmet needs.
So how do you think this impacts things? Let's call it 5-10 years from now.
Right.
How is the world better off because of Valera Health?
Well, hopefully of the 40 million Americans who are seeking care and can't get care, that we can take care, even if we just reach 10% of the market, that's tremendous.
And entrepreneurship probably looked easier before you got into it. What's been some of the big surprises that you've had, or the biggest lessons you've learned so far in trying to get this off the ground and getting it off the ground?
You're being pulled 1,000 different directions. And I thought I was a good multitasker. I think you have to be 1,000 times better. And you have to be used to the unknown.
Is it harder?
It's
or
definitely
easier
hard.
than you thought it was going to be?
It's definitely harder than I thought it would.
And what do you feel like today kind of is your biggest challenge as it relates to kind of getting to the next stage of where you are?
I think the sales cycle and the discussions with potential customers.
How long's the sales cycle?
I think it's probably 9 months to a year, and that takes a while.
And how old's the company?
9 months.
All right. So you kind of have a long-term commitment and a long-term view of things. How big is the gap between what you know now and what the people that you're selling to or pitching or talking about this with are?
Yeah.
Like, how big's the gap, and how much of this is education,
Yeah.
convincing, selling, discussing? I mean, tell me a little bit about that dialogue.
Well, I think fortunately, the folks that we've talked to are, they're the early adopters, and they see the value of this. And in fact, I think we've made tremendous strides. In 9 months, we have 4 projects. And to have a clinical trial with McLean Hospital connected with Harvard, that we got that contract done in 4 months. I mean, that's huge. And then we have a client in DC that's a mental health clinic that's taking care of 1,600 patients with severe and persistently mentally ill patients. And I think that's significant. So I think we're very, very fortunate we're talking to the early adopters who recognize the value of this.
And from your perspective, are you finding other clinicians empathetic to what you're doing, resistant to what you're doing? How do they view this?
No, we find clinicians absolutely understanding this, but I think where there's a lag is really understanding the payment policies for this. And of course, providers are right now at this point in time, they're absolutely burdened by change. It's just the ecosystem's moving so dramatically fast that they just can't keep up with all the changes.
So the industry's moving slow, but the ecosystem's moving fast.
Yeah.
What do you think if you could wave a magic wand and kind of have people understand something, or something that's either they misunderstand today or that they don't fully grasp? What would it be if you could kind of change the conditions that you're out in the marketplace trying to solve?
I wish healthcare reform actually took place maybe 10 years ago, and I wished providers and hospitals adopted technology probably 10 years ago, because then now we can actually go in and demonstrate the value that we have without providers have to go through the early adoption of technology and the pains and the hurdles of that piece, and so they can focus on the innovations now.
So we got some time. So it's early, basically.
It's I think it's still a little bit early.
You think it's earlier than you thought?
I think it depends on the marketplace. It depends on where the organization sits in their technology adoption curve. And I think those who adopted it 20 years ago are doing this stuff and want to do this stuff. I think those who are just using an EMR yesterday, they're the ones who are having a hard time.
Are you inspiring? Do you think you're inspiring other doctors to give entrepreneurship a try, or do you because I think it's interesting. Almost half of the entrepreneurs in startup health actually are clinicians and founders. It's fascinating. There's always there's a lot of clinicians and doctors who are embracing entrepreneurship, and it's almost the antithesis of what they learned a lot in medical school and kind of the way they've been almost taught to think. What would you tell other doctors who are even considering it or thinking about it or playing with the idea?
I encourage doctors to explore this. I think you're right. You're trained as a clinician. You're trained to be a little bit risk averse because you're talking about patients' lives at stake. And I think it's whereas in startup life, failure is it's not good, but you got to experiment and you got to take risks and you got to go for it. And I would encourage physicians to be open to change and open to the unknown and to take risk.
What did you have to make up for in your team because of your clinical experience, because of your background? What did you need to round out your team with to make sure that you've got kind of the dream team of what you need to build this company?
Definitely sales. I'm not a technologist, so I rely heavily on my team members based out in Israel, who are the technologists, and then fundraising and finance. You don't learn that in med school.
It's not a class yet.
Yeah.
In medical school. And do you think from the perspective of your team, are they learning about what matters because of your background?
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of force and shove healthcare policy 101 to folks who just start. So they learn a lot about reimbursements and the complexities of the U.S. healthcare system. It's so complex. You can spend a year, kind of digging into this stuff and not know anything.
When you think, I'm going to shift gears a little bit, go back to Valera, because I think it's interesting how you talked about mental health and some of the challenges there. What other components are needed to, you're so involved in the Affordable Care Act, and we're looking at, I think, over the next 5 to 10 years, everything being kind of upended by startups and entrepreneurs and kind of thinking about solutions a little bit differently. What are the other components that you think make it work?
I think how I talked about providers taking on risk. I think we need entities, organizations, payers, and providers willing to take risk also, and to truly be just not rubber stamping the word innovation and have a chief innovation officer without any authority. And I think we can't do this alone, and so we need partners in this. We need partners who truly think that, all right, let's go for something that's impactful and powerful, and let's not be afraid to say yes, as opposed to this is just too complex. It's a pilot, and we can't do this.
Right. So what's the characteristics of some of those partners that you found embrace it and that you've loved working with the most?
I think it's organizations that are successful in managing risk. It's organizations who want to be an ACO. It's organizations who adopted technology, ahead of their time. So I think it's features and characteristics and attributes that over time has shown that they are the risk takers and innovators, and they participate in with openness and embrace change.
Excellent. So you've been a healthcare transformer for 6 months.
Yeah.
What has it meant to you? What's been the biggest kind of impact it's made?
You guys are great. I think the sessions that you hold and the connections that you have and the introductions that you make and just keeping us on track and keep making sure that we meet some of the milestones. And I think most of all is really the camaraderie that we have with other startup companies and the shared lessons that we learn from each other.
Excellent.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure.
Well, thank you very much.
Watching you build this company. Last question, book you're reading, app you're using, or something in your kind of universe that you're thinking about right now?
Oh my God, you caught me off guard. So I think balance is a tremendous value for an entrepreneur, and I was reading a book which I totally blanked out. I'm blanking out on
Mindset?
that. What's that?
Mindset?
No. It's the guy who talks about people who contribute to in life and society, and what the attributes are about these people. And he's a psychologist based out of University of Pennsylvania. I forgot the name.
We're gonna get it. We're gonna put it in the show notes.
Okay.
All
All right. But back to balance, exercise, and eating well.
Fantastic.
Okay.
You look great.
Great.
Keep up the
Thank
great
you very
work.
much.
Good luck. Look forward to working together.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Tom.